Welcome to the Canadian Blind Hockey Podcast. Hello, blind hockey fans, and welcome to episode 8 of the Canadian Blind Hockey Podcast. I'm your host, Nico Cardarelli. Today's episode is our final episode of season 1 of the podcast. We can't thank you all enough for tuning in and helping us grow this platform. Today's episode will be a season recap where we'll share some laughs from previous episodes and look ahead to season 2. To wrap things up, our co-host today is Canadian Blind Hockey Program Manager Luca DeMontis. Luca, welcome back to the show.
Nico, how's it going? Good to be back. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We're thrilled to be able to chat with you and have you join us here today on the final episode of season 1. How has this project worked out in your opinion, and did it meet the hopes that you had?
Great question. Canadian Blind Hockey, I think we're very happy with this project. I think it was something that we wanted to create a platform for the players in our community, players, volunteers, fans, partners, everybody really just to share what the sport means to them and to share how important the sport is in their lives, right? So I think Canadian Blind Hockey, we're very excited how this project turned out. Many thanks to you, Nico. You are the voice of blind hockey, so I know it provides a lot of comfort to the players in the community when they hear a voice that sounds very familiar to them. So it definitely has been, in terminology from a different sport, we knocked it out of the park, I think, and a lot of credit goes to not only yourself, but the whole community for sure.
Thank you for the kind words. And yes, you're right. It's a team of people behind the scenes that really made this project successful, and we should acknowledge and thank everyone who put in the hard work going into this. And that kind of actually brings me to what I want to ask you now, because obviously I've had the great opportunity to host this podcast, and I understand some of the work that goes into making each episode possible. But for the listeners and viewers out there, can you tell them a little bit more about the process and maybe some of the challenges that we faced in season 1?
Yeah, definitely. There was challenges. And I think anytime you're doing a project for the first time, there's always challenges, right? But I like to consider those challenges a little fun, right? Some of the challenges, definitely when you're doing anything in Canada, it's a big country and there's many time zones. So of course, scheduling was probably the biggest challenge, making sure that Eastern time, Pacific time, Mountain time, everybody's on the same time zone when we're kind of recording. So definitely a huge kudos goes to a lot of the special guests for recording either really early or really late in their time zone. Aside from that, I think we got a great community, right? And anytime there is a challenge that arises, we've got a community, as you mentioned, of incredible volunteers, incredible players that are there to help us beat any challenge, right? So it was a learning curve, but I think we got the team and I think we got the right people in place to really minimize any challenge and turn it truly into an opportunity, right? And I think anytime you could really transfer a challenge into an opportunity, not only are we growing as an organization individually, but we're growing for the better part of the sport to make sure that it's out there, to make sure people are hearing the stories. It doesn't matter if you're from Mabou, Nova Scotia, or if you're from Victoria, BC. We've got players from across this country that got incredible stories to share. So it was worth every challenge. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And like you said, anytime you're doing something the first time, you've got those kind of learning curves to work through. But I think everyone kind of did a great job on the fly to make things work out for the best. And like you, I think we're all pretty happy with how season 1 has turned out. But it's not just the podcast that Canadian Blind Hockey has been working on. It's actually been a very busy summer with the Blind Hockey at Home program series. Of course, the program held a national team virtual camp, a webinar workshop series, the podcast, the summer development camp, and launched the new women's blind hockey program. So what has the response been like from the community, and why is it so important to provide weekly programs during this period where all in-person programs are suspended because of COVID-19?
Well, first off, it's been a very busy summer. I think this is probably one of the busiest blind hockey summers ever, right? But aside from that, we provide programming to make sure our community is ready, right? At the end of the day, it's very important to us to make sure that we have an outlet for our community to be part of something. Definitely at the beginning of the pandemic, when everything was shut down, was a hard time. And one thing that Canadian Blind Hockey didn't want to do was close the office doors and kind of walk away. So what we did is we opened the office doors and we welcomed everybody inside. We welcomed you inside to our living room. We welcomed you inside our computers. And I think it speaks volume because the amount of registration for every one of those avenues, if it's the webinar, if it was virtual camp, the national team development, if it was the podcast, the community spoke and they spoke loud and clear to us. And I think that's what made it so important for us to realize, hey, we need to provide weekly programming because we got a community that needs it. And not only do they need it, but they're engaging in it, right? I would be lying if I told you I didn't receive any text messages, right? Because throughout the summer, I was getting text messages from players across the country, whether it's them just shooting the puck in their driveway, just telling me how much they missed the game, or if it was an email, hey, when's summer camp? Are we still going to be able to host it even virtually? And we answered every one of their questions. But a lot of credit goes to the community, the players, because, Matt and I, we could plan and plan and plan all these programs. But if we don't get the community coming out to them, then the programs aren't going to grow. They're not going to succeed. But we are very honored to say that every program had great registration counts, incredible. We had new, unique viewers taking part in webinars with, former NHL players that were sharing memories and stories of their career. We had summer virtual camp, which I thought I would never say, but yeah, that was a huge success, right? We had members from, of course, Canada. We had members from USA. We also had, of course, everyone's favorite Brit from England. We had Nathan take part in it. So 3 countries right there. And the beauty part about summer camp was we recorded everything. So in the next couple of weeks, we will be putting that all out on our YouTube channel so we can share this with other countries like Finland, Russia, Sweden, Australia, and the list is going to continue to grow. But I think it was a very important summer for us. Like I said, we wanted to make sure our doors were wide open for anybody to come in, ask us any questions, help us grow. We've had a couple great meetings with new individuals who are welcome to the community, right? A great guy we just met a couple weeks ago, Michael from Winnipeg, strong individual who wants to start a program out there, and we don't have a program in Manitoba. Yeah. So do I kind of want to give credit to these programs, these camps, these webinars to help us grow and create more exposure? They definitely deserve that respect. And I think that's what helped us get to where we are today. The goal for us is, we want to keep growing.
So, Luca, Canadian Blind Hockey recently conducted the 7th annual Summer Development Camp. You touched on it a little bit there. This time it was held virtually, the first time Canadian Blind Hockey did a virtual development camp. So how did the camp go? What were some of the highlights in your opinion? And what does it say about the blind hockey community that despite the current pandemic, we're still able to come together and continue these traditions?
Nico, summer development camp virtually was amazing. It was great. I think the biggest thing for our community is dedication. Anytime we're able to put on any type of program, camp, webinar, podcast, the dedication from our community is truly there. So even though it was virtually, and to be honest, Matt Morrow and myself, we didn't know how to plan a virtual camp, right? But we had many great meetings with Hockey Canada. They provided us with some great resources and tools on how to make this a successful camp, a successful training camp. I would be remiss if I said I think the hardest part of virtual camp was cooking my own food, my own meals, because we've been spoiled at Fortius with the amazing food from Fortius in Vancouver and Burnaby, and also here in Toronto from Zito's great food. So that was definitely the most difficult part. And I remember messaging Matt, I'm like, oh, well, what am I going to make for lunch today kind of thing. But aside from that, camp is a place, and you mentioned it's a tradition that everybody looks forward to. So I'm very excited. I was honored to be a part of it. I think Canadian Blind Hockey did an incredible job. And I think the most important thing is we didn't let this kind of current situation that we're all living in stop the tradition and stop the growth of the sport. So, of course, we had members from, as I mentioned, Canada, USA, England, and I know Russia, Finland, Sweden, Australia, they'll all tune in when it's up on our YouTube. So definitely be on the lookout for that. Our virtual camp will be on our YouTube channel in the next couple of weeks.
Yeah, and we have to give a shout out to our friends in Finland because I know that they've been watching every episode of the podcast. We've gotten some messages from them. So you're absolutely right, Luca. The community, the global blind hockey community, still stays well connected and strong during these unprecedented times.
And I think you have to during these times, right? Because this is how you're able to grow, right? If you can grow when times are tough, when everything's rosy, it's going to be easier for us, right? And I don't want to take any credit away from the other countries because, you know, as you mentioned, like Finland, they were playing blind ball hockey a couple weeks ago, right? Russia, they're about to get back on the ice. So the sport's growing, and I talked about dedication earlier. It's good to see that the dedication is growing across the world also.
Well, Luca, we've got a great show on the docket for today, so we better get into it. We're going to hear from a couple of former Paralympic athletes who are connected to Canadian Blind Hockey's two primary partners, our presenting partner, AMI, and our national program partner, the CNIB Foundation. And they're going to tell us about their experiences in high-performance parasport and also let us know about some exciting new content and programs. So first up is former Paralympic sledge hockey player and the host of AMI's all-new show, Level Playing Field, Greg Westlake. Then we'll hear from Paralympic goalball player and current CNIB Foundation Executive Director of Ontario North and Ontario West, Robert Gaunt, who will discuss the new virtual programs being offered by the CNIB Foundation. Following that, we have a very special player profile video feature that the entire community is going to want to see. And finally, we'll check in with our executive director, Matt Morrow, for an update on the international development of blind hockey and what to expect for 2020-2021. Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. We're now extremely excited to be joined by the former captain of the Canadian national sledge hockey team, a gold medalist at the 2006 Winter Paralympic Games in Torino, a two-time gold, silver, and bronze medalist at the World Championships, and he is the co-host of the brand new Level Playing Field show on AMI. Please welcome Greg Westlake to the show. Greg, what a great career, and thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me. You know, 2006 seems like a long time ago now, so it's that just slapped me upside the head right there. But no, it's happy to be here, man.
Yeah, it was certainly a special experience, and I'm sure for you, maybe one of the most memorable in your career. But to get things going, I want to go back to the early days of your sledge hockey career, back to when you were 15 years old and started playing the game for the Mississauga Cruisers. What led you to get involved in hockey, and how has it changed your life?
You know what, man? It's a great question, and it's all just about a very deep love of the game. I was a kid that grew up playing stand-up hockey. I grew up in the minor hockey system here in Canada under Hockey Canada. Always wanted to take it as far as I could. I was that annoying younger brother that was following my older brother around, trying to play goalie for street hockey games, just trying to play any way I could. You know, I was willing to block shots, play goalie, do whatever I could just to get out there and play, and did that for a long, long time. And I think you get to a certain age, kind of, you know, that 14, 15, 16, when, you know, people start hitting puberty and really starting to take hockey very seriously. And I just kind of realized I wasn't going to be the first kid on two artificial legs to make the NHL. And but my parents knew that I had a deep, deep love of the game, and came to me one day and said, "Hey, we found this organization, the Cruisers. You know, do you want to go try this sport out?" And I was really reluctant. I didn't want to do it. I give the cruisers a ton of credit because, like a lot of para sports, it requires, very special equipment. Where do you get a sled? You don't just go to the local store and buy one. Where do you get the special gear, the sticks with the picks on the end, all that stuff? And so they were so great to me. They had it all set up. They were excited about me coming to try it because I came from a bit of a hockey background and didn't love it right away, but I loved the people involved. And that's kind of where, you asked me how it changed my life. It's not so much being an athlete has always been a part of me. I always felt like I was a competitive guy, but it was the people I've met, the cancer survivors, the military veterans, the people who have gone through some pretty crazy things in their life and come out the other side, different people. And I just remember being 16, seeing Team Canada play for the first time and going, these guys are athletes. These guys are fantastic. The hits were big. The shots were hard. So at that point I was kind of sold and started the journey from there.
You mentioned there the first time you saw Team Canada. Fast forward to 2003, and you're making your debut for the Canadian national sledge hockey team. So what did that mean to you to be able to wear your country's jersey?
It was big. It was, for me, it was just it was like my foot in the door. I knew I was going to have a long runway. I wanted to play for a long time, and here we are, 34 and still going. So for me, like I don't think it had hit me at that point yet. It meant so much to the people around me, my parents, my family, and all that. And for me, I grew up, again, big hockey nerd. So I watched all the World Juniors, all the Olympics, all the men's, women's games from, back to Salt Lake City when the women were really starting to get some traction, and just a fan. And so for me to put on the jersey, I did remember some iconic goals, whether it was Gretzky and Lemieux or, Paul Henderson or just all these things. And then you start thinking, can I create a moment like that? Can we do something like that? And so that's what it meant for me, was just to kind of be in this brotherhood of, man, I play for Team Canada. But for me, it was a big family thing. They sacrificed so much for me to follow my goals. And, it was really special for me to look up and just see those genuine smiles on my parents' face. And, for me, that means more than anything.
I'm curious, in your opinion, what makes hockey the greatest sport on earth?
Well, I think it's a great team sport. I think it's a great free-flowing game. I'm a big sports junkie. And if you look at kind of NFL, NBA, in the NBA, there's so many pauses, timeouts, set plays. In the NFL, you really are running two very different teams, offense and defense. And I think hockey is just such a fantastic free-flowing sport. You really have to be good at all aspects of the game. Even the best offensive players are extremely underrated for their defensive acumen. And you got to be selfless. You have to be willing to say, hey, I think I can score 60 points, but I'm going to take this fourth line role and block shots and chip pucks out and do what it takes to win a game. And what you see every year with the Stanley Cup winner is different styles win the cup every year. Sometimes a big team, sometimes a skilled team. And ultimately, it's all about team buy-in. And if you're the team with the most amount of guys that have bought into the system, you have a real good chance of being successful. And that's what I like about it. It's not just about filling a team with the most skilled players. It's about building an actual, unit of guys that really work well together. And that's one thing that's always attracted me to team sports in general, but hockey especially.
All right, Kyle Dubas, take note of that, because I think Greg Westlake has the right philosophy for building a team. Of course, we're chatting with former Paralympian and former Canadian national sledge hockey team captain, Greg Westlake. And Greg, I'm curious, over the course of your career, you've played in a ton of, really high pressure, meaningful games, a lot on the line. So I'm wondering if there's any particular game, either at the Paralympics or World Championships, even the World Sledge Challenge, anything that really stands out to you when you look back on your career so far?
It's insane how it changes. It's like time just speeds up. And that's the one thing I would say, compared to a round robin game or an exhibition game versus gold medal game. It's like you blink and the game's over and you're back in the locker room and what just happened. It's honestly like time just flies forward. For me anyways, that's how I feel. And I've been on the good end and the bad end. I've lost in overtime in gold medal games at the Paralympics. I've scored goals with 9 seconds left at the World Championship and won the World Championship. So trust me, I have absolutely been on both sides of the good and bad of those big games. And it's just an absolute whirlwind. Obviously, it's a lot more fun when you come in and that time flies by and you're back in the change room drinking beers and celebrating with the guys. That's, the side I like to be on. But no, it is a crazy whirlwind experience. And I think it's that high that athletes talk about chasing that they don't get when they're done playing. It's that experience of that final game where time speeds up and you're just so locked in and you're in there with the guys you've been working with all year for it. It's that emotional experience that people chase for the rest of their lives that, you're trying to fulfill outside of sport.
Do you have a favorite memory from your playing career so far? Like, would it be that gold medal win in 2006 at the Paralympics, or is it something else that, when you look back on it, it's like, yes, that really was meaningful to me?
It's I kind of feel like there's like a bunch of categories in my mind. I break everything down too much sometimes. Like, I think about, like, when did I make my family the most proud? Like, did I do some good work in the community? And a big part of, Hockey Canada and our program is pushing it forward and leaving it better than we found it. And then, so honestly, I'm really proud of the growth of the sport. Just like, not even selfishly, just from where we were in 2003 to where we are now is night and day. And that's something that can't be overlooked. In terms of an actual on-ice moment, anytime you win, honestly. But 2006 and 2008 were both the big ones for me. 2006 just because it's the only gold medal that we've ever won as a program. Right. 2008 just selfishly because I did score a big goal in that one. Yeah. But they're all fun. I mean, anytime you can win, like I said, you have that experience afterward with the guys where you celebrate. And sometimes I find for me with sports, sometimes you can be very proud of the fight that people don't get to see. Maybe when you've had an injury, when you're out of shape, when you're not in the best place mentally, when you do feel kind of down and you battle back and you get into shape, you become the best version of yourself and then go lay it on the line. And I've had tournaments like that where maybe we didn't win, but I know what I went through to get there and have a good tournament. And sometimes I'm always proud of just that personal battle of what did you do to get there?
Shifting gears a little bit, I want to get your take on blind hockey because you've had the opportunity to witness some games live and in person. So what's your just general view of blind hockey right now?
Well, I love it. We did a great segment on Kelly Serbu with Level Playing Field, and he's a very impressive man. On the ice, off the ice, what he does in his personal life, professional life. I'm always enamored with just high-performing people. And that was one of my favorite things about hosting this show is I got to deal with a lot of high performers. And you get to take things from all these people. And Kelly was a great example. He's just a guy that just never let anything stop him. And for so many people out there, when their vision starts to go and their sight decreases, the last thing they're thinking about is, I want to go put on skates. Skate as fast as possible and compete in this high level sport. So I got a lot of love and respect for the crazy men and women out there who are going through something like loss of sight, which would terrify a lot of people. Yeah. And instead to say, it's one of the bonds I think that brings Canadians together is hockey a little bit, because whether it's blind hockey, amputee, sledge hockey, or para hockey, men, women, like we're bonded by this game. And it's like in Canada, we just have this group of people that it doesn't matter what happens to you physically, mentally, you're finding a way back on the ice. And we're going to adapt a game. We're going to figure it out, and we're going to find a way to play. And so when I watch the blind hockey, I'm very proud to be Canadian and very proud to support such a great program.
Yeah, I echo those sentiments completely, and very well said. Having competed in the Paralympics, I'm curious, do you see the sport of blind hockey one day gaining inclusion to the Paralympic Winter Games?
It would be great. I get this question about a lot of different forms of hockey. We have a women's para hockey team. There's roller hockey that's pretty popular. And ultimately it comes down to other countries. And you need to have enough countries where there's some parity in the sport. And even right now, like the women's game forever was just Team USA versus Team Canada in the final. And it took a lot of years to build it up. And now, Russia's coming, China's coming, Scandinavia has some good teams, but it took a long time. And so I think the big thing for blind hockey, and my advice to the sport in general, would kind of be to have a bit more of a global approach. Because it's great, if Canada's world leading and US is world leading, but until you get to 6 or 8 teams and you can throw a tournament with some parity, it's really tough to sell the sport. And so, for me, I'm all about inclusion. I'd love to see 10 different versions of hockey at the games. I'd love to see 10 different versions of every sport at the games and not leave anyone out. but ultimately you need other countries to really buy in and develop their programs as well. And, that's where leadership's important. You got to spread the word and do a ton on social now these days. And, I definitely think it's on the right track. And, if it does gain inclusion, I'll be the first person to buy a ticket.
It's an interesting point. You bring up the journey that women's hockey has had to take. As someone who worked in women's hockey for many years, still do work with the PWHPA. It was something we always had to remind the fans. Yes, these women are amazing, but it takes time to grow the game globally. And if you look at men's hockey, it took essentially 100 years for that international community that really, as you mentioned, kind of the group where anyone can win on any given night. Women's hockey is starting to get to that point now, and it's taken them about, between 30 to 50 years to get to that point. Blind hockey and the para hockey community, we're still kind of in that infancy stage. Even though blind hockey has been played since the early 70s in Canada, globally it's still very much getting its roots kind of grounded. And when you look at the programs we're starting to develop, Finland has a strong showing in blind hockey. Russia has put together a ton of resources in a great program. Sweden is right behind them. England is kind of creeping up. We've had interest from Australia. I think that the blind hockey community is on the right path, and you're right. To get into that Paralympic level, it's going to have to be a incredible field globally. But I think the people on an international scale are doing the right things to get there one day.
100%, man. I agree with you.
I want to touch more on your work with AMI because you've had this incredible experience lately co-hosting a series called Level Playing Field. Can you tell us a little bit more about the show?
Well, I appreciate that. You know what? It really is a great show. And I touched on it when I talked about Kelly Serbu, and he's just one of the many amazing stories. The first thing for me is I got to go out and try a bunch of different para sports that I'd never tried before. And I say this to everybody, but if you have an opportunity, whether you're able-bodied or not, just get in and try some of these amazing things. Even it doesn't take a lot for someone to try blind hockey.
Yes.
And then after that, you can do it with a blindfold. And then you go out, you play this great game. And then I think everybody walks away with a whole different view of what the sport's like. And so that's what I experienced a little bit. I played wheelchair rugby. I played wheelchair tennis. I was around all these incredible athletes and trying their sport. And I walked away from some of these filming days so sore, so tired, but with a whole newfound love and appreciation for what these great people do. And the big thing with the show as well, there's something for everybody. I was so proud of, if you're somebody that loves high performance training and you want to learn more about diet, how to work out properly, all these high performing things, we have that for you. We have gold medalists. We have the high end athletes. If you're somebody that just loves a great docu-series with gripping stories of somebody who lost their sight, and we have a lady, Debbie Harriet, who's 63 years old, I believe, lost her vision and got into boxing and just became this boxer and trains every day. And then we did a story on Holland Bloorview Rehab Center and the work they're doing to get kids involved in sport so that when they're inpatients at hospitals, they're not just sitting in their room all day. And then I interview the kids and you see the smiles on their faces and you just realize that sport and being active brings so much to people's lives. And it's for everybody. It's not just for high-end athletes. It's for absolutely everybody. And I think we do a really good job of showcasing that broad spectrum, and I'm really proud of it.
I'm curious, how did you get involved with this project in the first place?
I wish I had a better story for you. Like, they saw my face, they said, that's the guy. Honestly, nothing. Like, they had interviewed me, I think when I was in Korea playing at the last Paralympics. I did some interviews with them that went well. And they knew that I was always trying to, I love this space. I love jumping on the podcast. I love talking hockey. I love giving opinions and all that stuff. So that they knew that I had a passion for just kind of improving that skill set for me. So they were so nice. They brought me in, and the producers I worked with on the show, Ted, Matt McGurk, everybody was just so good to me. And really, I felt like I was so bad at the start of the season. And then toward the end, I think you see some growth on my end, which is nice. But no, just got involved in it from the athlete side of doing interviews with them. And they asked me if I was interested. And like I said earlier, with my journey through hockey and playing para sport, it wasn't so much being on the ice and feeling that freedom of playing hockey again, just in a different way, that drew me to it. It was the people. And so then when the show came across my desk, I was excited because I viewed it as another opportunity just to expand my horizons of, okay, well, I've done this on the Paralympic side and on the hockey side, but I haven't really reached out to my community, which seemed like such a simple thing to do that I hadn't really done yet. And so I thought, even just for me on the personal growth side, I thought it'd be really good to get out, meet, community leaders, people who are doing great things, and just kind of, scope out the local scene. And I'm so happy I did.
If people are just learning about level playing field, why should they tune in and watch?
Well, again, it's the stories. There's something for everybody. And again, it's just the people. Like we have so many people. We had a guy, Rob Shaw, who is he's a wheelchair tennis player for Canada, one of the best we have for our country. And he won the gold medal at the Pan Am Games 2 weeks after we filmed his segment with him. And so it was really cool. We got to see his final preparations. And he was an able-bodied tennis instructor, fantastic player. And he actually got qualified to teach disabled tennis while he was able-bodied. Fast forward years later, he breaks his neck jumping into a shallow end of a swimming pool, and he ends up in a wheelchair. And he's already qualified to teach wheelchair tennis. And so it was just this weird foreshadow. Then now he's off winning gold medals. Nothing slowed him down. He didn't, pout and complain. He didn't let it pause his life at all. And there's just these incredible stories that I think they show the human spirit, but then they transition into these high performance sports stories. And so whatever you're into, whether it's the sports side, the human element, I fell in love with some of the stories. I'm now a fan of a lot of the people that we had on the show. I follow them on social media. I'm liking all their stuff. And so I just think we're shining a light on some stories that don't get everyday mainstream media attention. And I think it's a really special thing that we put together.
Over the last few months, we've seen, I think, an increase in popularity of kind of sports shows, sports documentaries, especially with not having live sports action. The Last Dance documentary, of course, ESPN 30 for 30s, all of these, kind of big platform sports related shows. AMI is obviously a huge platform for the community across Canada. How is level playing field different from other sports shows?
Well, it's different in the sense that we get to do more and we have more access. You only get so much access. If I go interview LeBron James, I'm going to get him for 30 seconds. I'm not going to his house. I'm not going to meet his kids. You get very limited access. Right. Whereas the stories that we do, we have your mother, we have your girlfriend, we have your husband. We interviewed everybody. We get a real 360-degree look at every story that we did. And so to me, it's the access that we get that makes us a little bit different. And for us, we don't just focus on one element. Like I said, there's a real human element, and then it transitions into a high performance element. And I think that's what really separates us, is just the access that we have on the stories we're able to tell.
We'll wrap things up with just touching a bit on AMI, because the blind hockey community is quite familiar with AMI. We've had a great partnership with them over the years. But for any of our viewers who may not be familiar, who may need a reminder, can you refresh our memory on what AMI is, what they do, and why it's so important for people with disabilities across Canada?
Well, I believe it's government funded, and it's very mandated to really spread awareness. But it just makes TV and things that some people take for granted every day a lot more accessible. And so people's favorite TV shows, you can go on to AMI and you can watch it with the captions. Like you said with the blind hockey, they're promoting sports that, again, maybe everyday viewers don't get the opportunity to see. So I just think it's a really special network where they prioritize great content. They prioritize great people and great stories. There's no agenda. And the agenda they do have is all about inclusion and making Canada a better place. So I couldn't be happier to be aligned with them. I'm proud of the programming that we put together, and I hope people tune in and we can really blow the roof off this thing.
If folks want to follow along to your journey, maybe even get in touch with you, how can they do so?
Yeah, my handle's the same for everything, G Westlake 12. I don't post. I'm not the most interactive on that, but when people do reach out or slide me a message, I always respond, and I'm always happy to interact and do what I can.
Well, Greg, we can't thank you enough for your time. You've been a great advocate for the parasport community and for blind hockey as well. And we really do want to thank you for your generosity and for your time today.
Thank you, guys. I love what you guys are doing, and keep fighting, keep pushing it.
Folks, stay tuned. We'll have more after this short break. Hey everybody, welcome back to the show. We're now excited to be joined by Robert Gaunt from the CNIB Foundation. Robert is the Executive Director of Ontario North and Ontario West. Plus, he's the Acting Executive Director for British Columbia and the Yukon. Robert, that's quite a lot of territory that you cover.
It's definitely quite a portfolio, Nico, and it's quite exciting. It's a massive geography with a lot of amazing people, so it's actually a lot of fun.
Well, we're really happy and excited that you were able to join us here today on our final episode of Season 1 for the Canadian Blind Hockey Podcast. And, I'm curious because you've worked in so many different sports throughout your career. I'm just curious, what were the primary sports that you were involved with?
So I guess initially, Nico, I played. I did have partial vision, so I did play a little bit of softball and those types of things early on. But really, my first competitive sport that I got involved with was goalball. Actually, at about age 15, I was introduced to the sport in a gym class one day, and I can very clearly remember standing at the side, kind of shaking my head and thinking, so I've just watched people throw themselves on a hardwood floor, have another person willingly stand at the other end of the gym and hurl a heavy hard rubber ball at them at amazing speeds, and they have a blindfold on and they dive on the floor and block the ball. And I just remember distinctly thinking that this seems crazy. And so actually after I tried the game, I must have got my bell rung once or twice or something, because I absolutely fell in love with it, and something that I continued with for about 15 years. And it was really a great introduction to me, and really opened up opportunities for me in the world of blind sport, and giving me a platform to learn and to grow from. And so from there, I did try, I never tried blind hockey competitively in any way. Certainly enjoyed and loved, the good old floor hockey games with the plastic jug with sand in it, and the crushed up juice can outside on the ice rink, and got involved with powerlifting as well as sort of cross training for my goalball. So those were kind of my early sport experiences, if you will.
I'm glad you mentioned goalball, because I'm not sure if all of our viewers know this, but you competed in 2 Paralympic games in the sport of goalball, and you're actually part of history. You were part of Canada's only ever men's team to win a medal at the Paralympic Games in goalball, picking up a silver back in 1996 in Atlanta. Can you tell us about those games and what that experience was like?
In a word, amazing. Just, what an honor, first of all, to be able to travel internationally and represent your country at anything. I mean, that in itself is just an incredible honor. And just as an experience, it was amazing to go to Seoul, Korea. We didn't fare as well as a team in Korea, but I was also very young. I think I was all of 18 years old. So it was an incredible learning experience. By the time we got to Atlanta in 1996, we had a pretty mature team and some great coaches, and just had an incredible experience. It was just the competition was it was intense, to say the least. A lot of pressure on us. I'm really proud to have been part of that team. It was an incredible team effort to achieve what we did there. I'm a bit saddened, at the same time, to learn that we haven't exceeded that medal standing since Atlanta, but I'm sure there's lots of eager athletes out there that would love to break that record anytime soon.
Yeah, that's a great point. Of course, the women's national goalball team enjoying tremendous success on the Paralympic scale. The men's program, still some work to do, but hey, they picked up a bronze at the Parapan Am Games here in Toronto a few years back. So I think they're probably on the right track. But yes, I certainly echo those sentiments. Now, in addition to goalball and powerlifting, which you mentioned, you also have a martial arts background. So, can you tell us a little bit about your experiences competing in Hapkido as a partially sighted athlete?
For sure. It's something that, again, we talk about foundations and certainly a parallel in terms of, where I work on a daily basis with the CNIB Foundation. But, blind sport really gave me that foundation for engagement in athletics and helped me really build the confidence to be involved in open sport and open recreation, if you will. When I moved to Northern Ontario I guess it was at the end of 1998, I certainly realized that, getting involved with competitive sport was going to be a lot more challenging as I was much more geographically isolated, if you will, from sort of, the main centers where you would see competition happening. And a colleague of mine introduced me to what was called Combat Hapkido or Shantu Kwan Hapkido. And again, probably similar to my initial goalball experience, I was thinking, geez, I don't know about this. Putting people in joint locks and throwing them to the mats and, all the great things that go along with martial art. And anyway, I stuck it out and I started to realize that this was something I really enjoyed. And over the course of about a 10-year period, I was privileged enough to actually earn 2 black belt rankings under my instructor, Matt Richer, at the time. And he was just an incredible gentleman who was very understanding and very appreciative of creating adaptations to be able to teach someone who was blind or partially sighted. So I really felt like I was at no disadvantage, and maybe in some ways I had an advantage having low vision participating because it helped the class in articulating things in a more clear, concise way so that people understood the different moves and techniques that you were doing as you were learning and training.
Very, very interesting. In addition to all the sports that you've mentioned and have competed at an extremely high level, you mentioned that you have had a bit of experience playing blind hockey. And I think that came recreationally when you went to the W. Ross McDonald School for the Blind. So I'm curious, what were your experiences like and what did you enjoy most about blind hockey?
Yeah, for a couple things. I guess one is, certainly the old floor hockey in the gymnasium, again, with the jug with sand in it so you can audibly hear where it's at. Just a lot of fun. I mean that was just a group of guys and gals getting together, even residential counselors joining in on the game. What a team environment and, non-competitive, well, quote unquote non-competitive. Of course, everyone's competitive. So it was just a lot of fun. Recreational activity. In the years that we had good weather in the winter time, we were able to get the rink going outside, and there you had the good old crushed up juice can to utilize to make noise that you could track the puck around. And again, just a great experience. Great avenue, great outlet for competition and fun. Certainly, I would never be a hockey star. Didn't have the legs for it, for sure. Didn't have the skating ability, but it was a lot of fun to play.
We're chatting with Executive Director Robert Gaunt from the CNIB Foundation. As we look back on those fond memories, I can't help but wonder the changes you've seen not only within blind hockey, but the Paralympic movement, the parasport community as a whole. So I'm curious, in your opinion, what are the biggest changes that you've seen in the parasport community in general?
So I guess there's definitely been a lot of change over the years. Certainly, one of the things, very much on the positive end of the scale is the recognition of the athletes themselves. It's taken a long time to get to where we are today, and I'm sure in 10, 15, 20 years, we'll get a lot further. But the recognition that athletes now get for the time, the energy, the effort, the work ethic, everything that goes into competing in a para sport has definitely increased over the years, including media coverage and recognition. And I think that's something that for loved ones of participants, their family, their friends, it's great to be able to see athletes actually compete in these sports that they're so passionate about. So I think that's one area where there's definitely been growth. I would say the other is really, again, recognition for the power of sport and what that really means to an individual. I'm a real firm believer in transferable knowledge and transferable skills. And, while para sport or sport of any kind can certainly be, fun and engaging, it's an outlet for creativity, it's an outlet for energy. It's also a bit of a microcosm for life. And, it's a place where you can learn so many skills, leadership, teamwork, discipline, work ethic, respect for self and others, and hope, and never say never, never die attitude. And I think all of these things are elements that can come from sport and can be transferred into your personal lives, and certainly into vocational pursuits and career pursuits as well. So I think there's a greater recognition around sport and parasport, and again, the value that this brings to individuals above and beyond just competing in a sport.
I think you touched on it there a little bit in the latter half of your answer, but what's your philosophy on sport?
Well, as I said, I think it's really something that, it brings value to an individual. I think if you want to go to sort of the macro level, it brings value to communities and societies. Certainly, if you look at our era today, living within, COVID, ever since around March or so of this year, and you saw how sport was taken off the table in so many different ways, just watching your TV or listening to your podcasts, listening to the radio. That the impact that had on, I think, individuals was tremendous. And not only the athletes themselves, because they were unable to compete in what they're passionate about, it had an impact on society. And probably Nico, probably you and I and many others were sitting out there, and we're just craving sport. We're craving the ability to watch people compete and to have fun and to demonstrate the passion and the intensity that they do. So it's amazing, I think, in the last number of months, the work that's gone into allowing sport to continue safely, abiding by all the appropriate protocols, having bubbles, social bubbles, and all those types of things, and keeping people safe and driving this forward. So I think that's been an amazing learning for so many people in the importance that sport plays in our everyday lives. And parasport or sport for disabled or blind sport is no different. Again, for the athletes, it's an incredible opportunity for them to have that outlet. It brings them so many levels as they learn and train of confidence and experience. They need that type of engagement, and we're very blessed to be in a time where we've found ways to, in fact, reopen those doors again as well, and get people competing and participating in a safe way.
I want to shift a little bit to the CNIB Foundation, because as you mentioned, during COVID, during this kind of odd new reality we're all in the middle of right now, organizations have had to adapt and find ways to continue to, be available to the people who need them, but doing so in a safe manner. I'm just curious, why has the CNIB Foundation transitioned to the use of virtual programs? And more so, what does that look like now?
For sure. Yeah, it's, again, since March of this year in particular, we recognized that we couldn't deliver programming in person. It just was no longer viable because of COVID-19 and the requirement for physical distancing and safety. So we had to very quickly pivot, as we say, in how we deliver service. We recognized that so many people already are socially isolated, individuals who are blind or partially sighted, and we needed to find a way to be able to reach out to them and provide opportunities for engagements in a broad level as well as within their communities. And so we started developing virtual programs, as we call them, to ensure that people had access to conversation, to dialogue, to interaction with others. We ramped up that program development, and in fact, since as of today, roughly, we've reached out with over 600 different virtual programs and impacted more than 10,000 participants since March of this year.
Wow.
We also know that about 25% of those participants are actually new to CNIB, which is quite exciting because it tells us that we're definitely fulfilling a identified need, and that we're reaching out to an even broader audience than ever.
Well, that's really, really interesting. You mentioned that there's over 600 virtual programs available, so I won't make you list them all, but if folks want to get in touch and learn more about what programs are out there, how they can get involved, how can they get in contact?
For sure. So we have a tremendous array of programs. Probably the easiest way to explore all these different programs, you can go to our website at cnib.ca. All of our virtual programs are listed on the site. They can also certainly reach out to us by calling 1-800-563-2642, and we can give you additional information about the current programs that are offered, and we can get you registered.
We can't thank you enough for your time today. Robert Gaunt, the Executive Director of the CNIB Foundation. Thank you so much. I hope you and yours are safe, and I hope we can chat again soon.
Terrific. Thanks so much, Nico. Really appreciate the opportunity.
My pleasure. Folks, stay tuned because after this short break, it's one of my favorite segments of the show. It's our player profile segment coming up next. Welcome to the player profile segment of the podcast, where we feature your stories. This episode's player profile needs no introduction, and with that being said, he has a special message for you.
Hey guys, this is Alex Angus. I want to thank you guys for all the support and everything after my accident, because let me tell you, like, it took me forever to answer all the texts and everything from all you guys. So I want to say, in the deepest part of my heart, thank you for keeping me in your thoughts and everything through my tough time. But I'm going to make a full recovery, and I'm going to be getting out of the hospital, and I'll be home soon. And I'll be getting on the ice as soon as possible. So anyway, I want to say thank you for all you guys did and everything you guys do. And I love you guys. Goodbye.
On behalf of the entire blind hockey community, thank you for your strength and courage, AMAC, and we look forward to being back on the ice with you soon. We're calling on all blind hockey players out there to share your blind hockey testimonial with a chance to hear your very own story here on the Canadian Blind Hockey Podcast during Season 2. Email your testimonial to info@blindicehockey.com. Hey everybody, we're now joined by Canadian Blind Hockey Executive Director Matt Morrow. Matt, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Nico.
Of course. You know, it's been an unusual 5 months for everyone, and certainly a different time for Canadian blind hockey. Everyone in the community is pretty aware about the Blind Hockey at Home initiative. So I'm curious, in your opinion, how has that gone?
I actually think it went fantastic, Nico. Obviously, when COVID happened, it was 2 weeks out from the National Blind Hockey Tournament. So pretty hard to turn something around that quickly, although, we were all quite happy with the viewing party, which led to a lot of these blind hockey at home strategies. But I think what was neat over the next few months is, when we realized that pretty good chance there's not going to be a summer camp and we're not going to be able to host other in-person programs for a while. You know, what can we do virtually? You saw so many partner organizations of ours that have transitioned to using Zoom, and obviously Hockey Canada being the leader, we tried to follow their lead as well. So certainly between you know, the national team camp, last week's development camp, which was a whole lot of fun, and then all of these podcasts and webinars, it's been a great summer for Canadian blind hockey.
Matt, it seems like around the country, hockey is beginning to return to play at all different levels. Can you tell us a little bit about the strategy that Canadian blind hockey has for returning to play?
Sure. I mean, again, a lot of it's follow the leader. So, you know, Hockey Canada sets these standards nationally, and then each of the provincial members has their own requirements in conjunction with the provincial health authority, which then also has municipal requirements. So depending where the program is, there's multiple layers to getting back out to return to play. What I think is really encouraging for blind hockey is Luca and I have been busy studying the return to play plans, and most places are requesting that you play 3-on-3 or 4-on-4 to minimize the number of players on the ice. Other little things like no face-offs, so after a goal the play just continues, kind of old school pond hockey style. Just because of the numbers in blind hockey, I actually think that that's going to suit our regional programs. I think for a traditional hockey program where you may have, you know, 20 players in the team and you're used to playing all these different teams, that's causing a lot of problems with the COVID restrictions, trying to figure out how to make that happen. But for our groups that are typically pretty tight knit, anywhere between say 10 and 25 athletes, I think they should be able to get their regular scrimmages up and going in most places, if not all places across the country this fall.
You know, one of the most exciting things pre-COVID and the last couple of years has been the international growth of blind hockey. It's really at an all-time high right now. So can you share with us some of the exciting new developments around the world in the sport?
Absolutely. I mean, this past season, you know, I'll attribute it to, compare it to rather, when we were helping to grow the sport in the United States. You know, we got it going in 2014, and it just grew a little bit in 2015, and it just grew a little bit in 2016. But really, once kind of 2017 hit, it really felt like that ball had finally started rolling, and all these U.S. programs had popped up. There was talk of getting, you know, the U.S. national team together, having the first international series, and I think, you know, in a lot of ways, that's what we're starting to see on the international side of things. So it was actually at our 2018 summer camp where a couple of Finnish athletes, Antti and Marcus, came to camp. You were there, of course, helping to coach. And that was really, and Nathan from Blind Ice Hockey UK was there as well. So that was really kind of our first foray into international. And then last year, we actually had a group of coaches from Parasport Russia come, and they've also gone to some US events. They're following a USA hockey model where, you know, they already did the sled hockey, and now they've introduced both special and blind. So, you know, obviously Luca was over in Russia giving a presentation at the World Hockey Forum in December, and then a group of us, including Luca and myself, went to Finland to help with the first training camp in the winter. And actually, I just had a call the other day from our new Swedish player that we had planned on putting a camp together before it got shut down due to COVID. So all this to say that, you know, it's incredible to see the growth in all these different places all around the world. And we can't wait until there's a time where we can kind of bring everybody together and continue with our sort of summit model and really show everybody what blind hockey is all about.
It's very exciting, especially to know that there's non-traditional hockey nations also eager to get involved. So that's really exciting stuff on the global
absolutely,
stage.
Nico. In addition to Blind Ice Hockey UK, I've actually had several conversations with multiple stakeholders across Australia over the last few weeks. So there's definitely some eagerness there. You know, a few years ago, the only thing you could find on the internet about blind hockey would have been stuff that we had written and published. And now the really cool thing to me is that, you know, there's a Finnish language site for blind hockey. There's a Russian language site for blind hockey. There's, you know, all the US pages, and of course, Nathan's stuff as well. So it's neat to see that it's really become a global game.
Oh, very exciting. And it kind of leads into this next question because I'm curious where you see the sport of blind ice hockey in the next 5 to 10 years.
I think certainly within 10 years, there's a very good, we're certainly going to have a world championships, and hopefully we'll be having conversations to see if we can get the sport included in the Paralympic Games. I would say, up until this COVID shutdown, we were thinking that maybe even this season we might be able to have like a 4-team World Cup, maybe follow similar to what the NHL did, where it would have, Team Canada, Team USA, Team Europe, and then Team North America or something like that, just to really create that international structure. I think certainly the Finns are on the right track to developing a team, and that is their goal. The Russians have actually started with youth programs, so they're going to build that foundation, but we're hoping that they're going to transition into some more adult programs sooner than later. And I really do believe that we will be having a world championship sometime in the 2020s for blind ice hockey.
That's incredibly exciting. I'd be remiss if I didn't ask about some of the work that's gone behind the scenes in Canadian blind hockey during this pandemic. And I guess what I'm most curious about is how Canadian blind hockey has found a way to keep the programming continuing to operate. So how is it that Canadian blind hockey has been able to continue to operate and keep going in these challenging times?
Well, first and foremost, as a charity, everything starts with our partners. So our presenting partner, AMI, you had Greg Westlake on earlier in the show, who is launching Level Playing Field. Not only are they a financial supporter of Canadian blind hockey, but they promote the sport and help us grow the game. There's actually a really exciting episode coming up in October that will feature Kelly Serbu and the sport of blind hockey. So we're all really looking forward to that. Our national program partner, CNIB Foundation, they've done something very similar to us in that they've had to transition all their programs to online. So certainly as, service providers for the community of Canadians who are blind or partially sighted, we're in it together with them. Whereas, our programs mostly focus on fitness and hockey, but, the Daniel Family Foundation, Electra Health, Manion, and just our donors coast to coast is what's kept us going. We're very confident that we're going to be able to run quality programming all year, and we're extremely hopeful that we'll be able to start transitioning more into some events towards the end of 2020, probably most likely at the start of 2021. The other thing is our team of volunteers. We've grown this thing out, and that's our staff and volunteers, whether that's a full-time employee like Luca, who's done a wonderful job, or somebody that we contract out, such as yourself and Parasport TV, to do this podcast, which has just been huge for us. Our whole national team coaching staff that are all key volunteers. We've had many meetings, and the board of directors, right? So there's just a lot of really good key volunteers involved in Canadian blind hockey, and I think we've put together a pretty good plan for the uncertainty of 2020, 2021, and we're just going to take it, 1 week and 1 month at a time and reevaluate it on a month-to-month basis. But I would certainly say blind hockey's back. I had the opportunity to get out on the ice with some members of the Vancouver Eclipse the other week, and that was my first time on the ice in 5 months. So fun little scrimmage. We were able to follow all the COVID protocols that have been put in place, and we're confident that, as I said, first these programs are going to come back at a local level, and then hopefully we might be able to look at doing some things at a more regional level. And then after that, we're hoping, that the big show, the 2021 Canadian Nationals, can go on as usual.
If someone's watching this for the first time, just learning about Canadian blind hockey, they want to get involved, how can they contact Canadian blind hockey and get involved in programming?
Yeah, so I'd just go to our website or any of our social media channels. Our website's it's really comprehensive in terms of overall information about the organization. It's got, my contact number, Luca's contact number, and then for kind of the more up-to-date what's going on a day-to-day basis, certainly following the social on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook would be the best way to follow along. We've had pretty great engagement, I would say, from the community in these blind hockey at home programs, and this is the last podcast for season 1. We're going to take a couple weeks here in September to kind of reevaluate and see what sort of other projects we could and should be working on. Certainly, continuing the launch of the new women's program. That's an important thing. I think we're going to be looking to create, I'll call it a working group with the leaders of all the different clubs so that they can share best practices for getting back together. So, certainly the podcast is going to be back. We're going to be looking to host webinars as well. Those have been very popular and also a lot of fun to do. And we're just going to continue to support the community. I think the other thing is, for our athletes to keep sending us in their ideas. At the end of summer camp last week, we had a really great workout on Thursday. And we finished camp by saying, please send in your ideas as to how Canadian Blind Hockey can support you, whether you're a member of a team or you're an individual that lives in a community where there is no blind hockey team. And right away, Brandon Joy from Newfoundland said, that workout was awesome. Could we do that on a monthly basis? And sure, that's something Canadian Blind Hockey can absolutely put together and will be putting together. So, we do a lot of these programs for the national team. Now we're going to try to open them up for everybody else as well.
Matt, we can't thank you enough for your time, all the hard work that you do. Canadian Blind Hockey Executive Director Matt Morrow, thank you again for joining us. Well, Luca, what an amazing first season of the Canadian Blind Hockey Podcast. We had 8 spectacular episodes with incredible individuals sharing their stories on the game of blind hockey. I'm curious, because I've got a couple favorites. Were there any interviews or episodes from season 1 that stick out in your mind as favorite moments?
Wow, that's a tough question. Before I get to my favorites, I guess I got to go on the air right now and apologize to everybody for listening and heard me sing. So that being said, sorry I put everybody through that. I hope you forgive me. I'll refrain from singing again, but I don't know if I could really find a favorite episode or a favorite segment or interview. Everyone was my favorite, right? I guess call me biased, but I thought we had a really good season. 7, now 8 incredible episodes, great stories, great people. Definitely huge shout outs. I can give probably shout outs from every episode. I never knew Gabby could play the piano like that. And I see him every Sunday, right? So that definitely was like, wow. And I think, it says a lot about him as an individual, right? He's very courageous. He's always wanting to learn. And I could say that because when we first got him at GTA Youth, every time he stepped on the ice, he'd fall, but he'd get right back up. So I think that speaks a lot about him as a person. Let's see where else we can go. I got to give a huge shout out, though, to all the co-hosts. I think every co-host really killed it. I had huge shoes to fill in this episode. So definitely Joe F. Podcast episode 7. Yeah. He was a natural. And, just to touch on that, after that podcast, Joe sent me a text message and he's like, hey, I had a lot of fun. I really like doing that. Do you think I should get into media? And I said, Joe, you just answered the question. You had fun. And, I have fun doing my job. I love what I do. And anytime you can do what you love and when you're having fun, it really isn't work. So, maybe this podcast helps someone like Joe F. Really find his next route or find what he wants to do in life. So if this podcast can be a brighter avenue for someone like that to really find something that they love and they have passion for, hey, we did what we really weren't trying to do, I guess. But it's tough. I'm still thinking about all the episodes. I can't really come up with one in particular. So I know season 2 we're gonna have to make even bigger and better. So it becomes even tougher for me to choose another favorite.
Yeah, see, for me, it's super easy. It's the moment you're apologizing for, which I thought was the moment of the season. Your duet with Gabby on the piano, you singing, that was a pretty priceless moment. But you're right. I mean, we had so many amazing co-hosts, so many great themes for each episode. Sticking out in my mind, the children and the youth episode where we had Chinzy on, and so many of the other great youth that we, Aiden and his dad, just so many great people that we talked to over the course of the season. all the co-hosts, all our guests, all our player profiles, everyone that stepped up to help us put this show on. A big stick tap for everyone who got involved. And, again, for me, I think it is that duet, my favorite memory of the season.
Man. I can tell you there was a lot better memories from this season than the duet for me, because the guys are still kind of chirping me on the national team for that. So I don't think they'll ever let that one down. But we have more in the bank, right? We had 8 episodes, but I think we had at least like 20 player profiles come in.
Wow.
So we got some ready for season 2, but I thought it was very fitting to end the way we did season 1. That was kind of a different style of a player profile, but just seeing that kid's face and hearing from him definitely touched a soft spot right here. So thank you, AMAC. Keep fighting, and we're with you, bud.
That's it. Stay strong. You've got the whole community behind you, and very well said there, Luca. We had viewers from all around the world for season 1. England, Australia, Russia, the USA. Of course, our big shout out to our Finnish friends who tuned into every episode. How does this speak to the growth of the sport of blind hockey internationally?
Well, they say hockey is for everyone, right? I think we help prove that. I think it doesn't matter about your race, the color of your skin, your disability. It's a game that unites us all. And I think here it doesn't even matter about your language, because, I hope in Russia they understand everything, and in Finland too. But it speaks volume, right? It gives us some reassurance to know we're doing the right thing, right? We've got people that are on board. We have people that are willing to grow programs in countries where yet Matt Morrow or myself have been to, right? So it speaks a lot of volume. I'm excited for the future. I'm excited to see where it gets us, where it takes us to, more importantly. And I think everybody that's starting a program, if it's in Russia, if it's in Finland, Sweden, even Australia, we are here to help you. We are here to help you grow. We are here to help you get on the right path, because we feel hockey, and more importantly, blind hockey, is a team sport. So as a team, we're going to help you get to that next level.
Luca, looking ahead to season 2 of the Canadian Blind Hockey Podcast, what can viewers expect from our next season?
More stories, more interviews, more player profiles. But like I said, we got some surprises. And I can't tell you them now, because then I don't know if you're going to tune into season 2, right? But we do have some surprises. We want to grow the podcast platform. We thought it was a really successful season 1. So we want to grow from that into a successful season 2. But with that being said, this is your chance. So if you are from our community and you have any suggestions, please email them to us, right? info@blindicehockey.com, Luca DeMontis at blindicehockey.com. Nico, you're the tech wizard. Maybe you'll be able to throw that down on the bottom after. But
we can do that.
But yeah, we're just looking to grow. So we've got some cool little initiatives that we've been talking about with Canadian Blind Hockey, with some of the local club teams. But we will be back for season 2. I promise you that. And I promise you we will continue to inspire and share stories from, I'll say it, some of the best athletes I know.
Yeah. Luca, for folks who are wondering how to get involved with Canadian Blind Hockey, how can they do so? How can they get in touch with you?
Definitely email me. I like to respond to emails as quick as I get them, because I think if someone's emailing me with a question or a response or even a comment, they're taking the time to reach out. And I've got all the time in the world for those people, because I think they're what's going to help us grow not only the sport, the programs across this country, but it's really going to help us get to that next level. Right. So definitely, for sure, email me, reach out to me. We are always looking for suggestions, ideas, ways to help us grow the sport, always looking for volunteers. We are always looking for new players. Our website, great way to be up to date with anything blind hockey, not only in Canada, even around the world. We'd like to touch base on everything that's happening. Social media. In a time right now, social media is very important to us. It's helped us grow our brand. It's helped us grow the sport. So follow us, Twitter, Instagram, watch the podcast. If you've watched it, watch it again. You know what I mean? Rewatch season 1 on our YouTube channel. Definitely any way we could work together to help grow the sport and create more awareness and more recognition of these amazing athletes that are so courageous and playing the sport they love. it just helps everybody. It's a win-win situation.
Well, Luca, we want to thank you for pitching in today with co-hosting duties. And again, thank you, Matt, the board of directors, the executive, everyone behind the scenes with Canadian Blind Hockey for all the hard work that you guys do and adapting in such a challenging time, but doing so in such a seamless manner to keep everyone connected. We want to encourage everyone in the community to watch AMI's Level the Playing Field, hosted by Paralympian Greg Westlake. The AMI Original Series Level Playing Field debuts Monday, September 7th at 8:30 p.m. Eastern on AMI TV, because everyone deserves a level playing field. The pair sport of blind hockey and Canadian national blind hockey team captain Kelly Serbu will be featured on an episode of Level Playing Field that airs on Monday, October 12th. Level Playing Field highlights and celebrates the power of sport by introducing audiences to the athletes, community groups, healthcare professionals, and grassroots innovators who demonstrate a desire to help drive positive social change through sport. In keeping with AMI's mandate of making media accessible for all Canadians, Season 1 of Level Playing Field features integrated described video, making it accessible for individuals who are blind or partially sighted. Folks, this has been episode 8 and the season finale of the Canadian Blind Podcast. A huge thank you to everyone who has been a part of this season. A special thank you to all our sponsors, including our presenting partner, AMI, our national program partner, the CNIB Foundation, as well as partners, the Daniel Family Foundation, Electra Health, and Mannion. Thank you all for your continued support. Folks, it's been an honor to be your host of the Canadian Blind Hockey Podcast for Season 1. Until next season, stay tuned and stay safe. Folks, thanks for tuning in to today's show. Remember to check out CanadianBlindHockey.com for all the latest, and stay safe. Canadian Blind Hockey programs are supported by AMI, CNIB Foundation, Daniel Family Foundation, Electra Health, Mannion, Parasport